whoa, what do we have here? What is this room?
This is Leslie's office.
Oh, okay. I feel like we've done this before. Have we done this before?
Maybe once.
Okay.
We have somebody cleaning the house right now. So, and Leslie is out in market. Expedia's trying to get them back out. So,
so just like visiting the hotels or?
Yeah.
Got it.
So she's not super excited about that.
Oh, why not? She has to actually see. Yeah, I was thinking of that the other day. I was like, man, Harry's really ruined me for like any other job, because if I had to go into an office or like not work from home, nah, I just don't think so.
I miss it. I miss not going into the office.
Yeah.
And I always had the option, and I went into the office by myself for like 4 years.
We kept that giant office just for you, Jordan.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So, no, I mean, yeah, you're right. If the office were like close, that is true. I would go a little bit, but like, yeah, I just don't like seeing people that much unless they're the people I want to see.
Yeah.
Hello, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. We did it. We got us all here together. Harry is not here, but that's okay. Yeah, he's on his Fox News tour of Bud Light Gate.
Oh yeah, that's got to be interesting.
No, we've been very restrained. We have.
He's done a great job throwing himself into the lion's den, knowing you got to watch every word you say with them.
Yeah, absolutely.
Harry's a dangerous guy to throw out there.
Yeah.
You guys ready to get canceled?
Yeah. Oh, we would have been canceled by now.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if it was going to happen, it would have happened for sure.
Yeah.
Totally. Well, let me give you guys an official entry or an official introduction. So welcome to Beer Net Radio, where all of your dreams come true. Today, I would like to welcome to the show the chiefs of Craft Ohana, Maui Brewing, Scott Metzger and Garrett Marrero. You guys were already a top 50 craft brewer last year when you acquired California's Modern Times. And I believe now for a combined roughly 120,000 barrel outfit.
Roughly.
Yeah, I think it'll come in a little lower than that in 2022, but that'll probably be around where we track towards in 2023.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So we got you guys on today to talk craft and year-to-date trends and integration and all that good stuff. But let's start with the usual tomfoolery, shitfoolery, what have you. I want to hear your best airport story so far this year. Because you guys, we've been trying to do this pod for a while, but one of us kept traveling or whatever, because these guys are always in the air. So I want to hear the best one so far this year.
Ooh, best airport one this year. That's hard to, those are hard because like usually I try to like mentally block those out, because they're not fun. I've actually had a pretty good year of travel so far. I would say maybe just my most recent memory of flights would be coming back from it was getting on the plane and noticing that Scott Metzger is on my flight. That would have been that one. That was a lot of fun. But then he told me about this little airline called Zip Air, and it saved us a bunch of money on my ticket back from Japan because United was tracking like 4,400 for a coach seat back from Japan. And Zip Air was 1,200 for a lay flat. So, yeah, that was awesome.
Zip Air.
Yeah, it is no frills. Let's put it that way. But it was a lay flat seat. There's not even digital entertainment, but there's free Wi-Fi. So food is separate. Not allowed to carry on a bag. All kinds of crazy stuff. But yeah.
Did
There's
y'all
no
sit
AC. You print on the windows, right?
Did y'all sit next to each other when y'all had the same flight, or was it kind of a nod and go?
No,
go
originally did, but a gentleman offered his seat up so that we could sit together. And we pretty much we chatted, and then we worked a little bit, and then I think maybe pretty much the whole time worked, as far as I recall. But
nice,
yeah.
Scott,
yeah, I don't have any fun airport stories. I tend to show up 45 minutes before the flight and keep my head down and get on the plane and go. But I can report that it is possible to make it from Maui to Phoenix in 4.5 hours, which really surprised me one time. So
that is crazy. Well, let me start us off with a real question. As mentioned, you guys officially bought Modern Times last year. You changed your platform name to Craft Ohana. Ohana it's Ohana, right?
Cool. Ohana, yep.
Okay. And then Scott became president and COO and now spends even more time taking pictures of his sweet kicks while flying around the world. We do see those online all the time. So have you guys digested the Modern Times acquisition, right? How's the integration gone? Of course, we have to ask about distributor alignment. Have you found that to be necessary?
Yeah, I mean, we've been working towards distributor alignment. I mean, in some cases, it makes sense to stay with where the houses, where the brands are at. But in others, we have aligned, and I mean, stepping back for a minute too, if you looked at our footprint, we were generally pretty aligned already, but there were certainly some areas that were more of a challenge than others. Texas, for example, in large part is each brand remaining where they were for a multitude of reasons. But it can be challenging to try and align everything. And, this is something that I even learned on my recent trip to Korea and, interviewing importers. It may make sense to keep them in separate houses because, certain wholesalers specialize in certain areas. And particularly for us, the export market or importing into Asia, I see the brands fitting in two different channels in some ways. So, finding the one that's the right partner for each brand is more important than just having them under the same roof. I mean, our team is more than capable of managing an additional importer or wholesaler in a particular area. So,
and when you think, or did you want to say anything, Scott?
No, go right ahead.
Okay. When you think about optimizing, the brand and assets you've acquired, have y'all started to make any tweaks to, its distribution footprint, the Modern Times portfolio, its outpost there in California at all?
Scott, you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, I think, from a portfolio perspective, we didn't want to make any big changes right out of the gate. But I think, for both Maui and Modern Times, thinking about our collective, reach and capabilities, it is a good time to think about portfolio optimization. So, we're investing in, greater processes to go about that, approaching how we, tackle, portfolio expansion, or in some cases, contraction in where there might be SKUs that aren't working, and they may be somebody's favorite, but at some point we need to do, what's best for the overall organization, and not, be loyal to our pet brands, so to speak. So that's happening. I would say, on the, in terms of optimizing the entire business, bringing them together, that certainly had some headwinds, as to be expected, nothing unexpected. And that goes not just on the Modern side, but the Maui side as well, figuring out, how to optimize an organization that's now part of something bigger. When we were just Maui Brewing, it made sense to have, somebody did this and somebody did that. But now it's like, well, now we have two somebody's doing that. And is there a better way to approach that problem and how we solve it? So a lot of that is happening. I'd say, generally speaking, it's gone as well or better than I expected. And that's not to say there's not ups and downs, but we knew that going in.
Yeah. And have y'all started to ink Maui's presence in some of, have you started producing Maui at all at any of the Modern Times breweries? Have you started increasing Maui's presence at some of those tap rooms they have?
Yeah,
so I know. Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Yeah. Well, I was going to say we are making one beer for Maui at Modern Times currently, and it wasn't necessarily even by design. Our intention, at least in the short run, is not to push Maui volume through Modern Times facilities, just given that they're very different in terms of the way they approach, production of beer and the efficiencies that exist within those facilities. Mm-hmm. However, we found, with spring resets and having deadlines for certain new SKUs to hit the marketplace, we found ourselves in a tough position that we're having, and so having capacity at Modern Times really was a godsend in the case of this one beer. It gave us an outlet to produce a beer that, we were struggling to find space for with our contract producer on the mainland. So we're able to ship that to Modern Times, at least in the intermediate term, to meet those deadlines and hit the spring resets.
Mm-hmm.
What was that?
That's our OMG Hazy IPA.
Okay.
It's orange mango guava and trademark and process. It was a Scott creation. He dreamt up the name and went to Kim, and she made up the beer.
So can we expect to see that a lot in these spring resets?
Yeah, we have some pretty good placement around the country. Down your way in Texas, I don't think that made the sets here in spring, but continue to push that, and hopefully in fall we can see some ads.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right.
Yeah,
well,
expect a lot out of that beer. It's just fantastic, hazy juice bomb.
Nice. And of course, you have also the added halo of Hawaii, which has had a powerful pull the last couple of years. I don't think I had ever seen so many friends travel to Hawaii as I did the last 2 years. You've got White Lotus, you've got all this pop culture stuff. So are you guys still growing double digits in 2023? It's even though it's been a tough year for craft?
What's our projected? We said would we do about 125,000 this year. So I don't know that we'll be double digit, but Scott, what do you think? I mean, it's still early in 2023 and we had a rough start with, Ray has taken over the Paradise distribution here in Hawaii. I think everyone who comes from the mainland to operate a business or acquire a business, thinks it's just going to be, simple. And it is very difficult to come into Hawaii and just start doing business for a multitude of reasons. Some of the same challenges they've seen in Texas, however, with their acquisition. I think, with all due respect to the Reyes brand, they might have bit off even more than they could chew, by trying to make both those acquisitions at the same time. So that definitely gave us a little bit of a rough start. And then we've had some challenges with delays in shipping. Our new filler was delayed, which missed the one tiny window we had for installation. So that's had to be pushed back. So, things like that certainly, we stumbled out of the gate, but we look forward to, making it up the back part of the year.
Well,
yeah. And I'd say, some of the challenges that we're facing, I'd say certainly the demand and the pull is still there for well above double digit growth. We've just ran into some challenges here in Hawaii that are, kind of the result of some of the things you're talking about, that immense pull from Hawaii. And Garrett has a great phrase that he's used the last few years, right? It's like revenge travel. It's everyone was cooped up for so long, and now they're like, I'm taking that trip to Hawaii now that I can. But that's put, a lot of demand and strain on the supply chain. And I know I was hoping we were past the time when we talk about supply chain all the time. But the strain that's put on that is tremendous. And some of the things that we have to deal with here, on this chain of islands is very different than suppliers in other parts of the country, right? Just talking about things like container availability, being able to move product from one island to the other. Obviously, it's really easy for us to supply Maui, but it's not very easy to supply, an island that you can even see out with your own eyes. But getting beer there is a lot tougher story. So, some of those challenges we're working through. We're pretty much flat through the first quarter of 23. But I think if we, looked at demand forces, we could easily be at double digits if we can alleviate some of these supply chain issues.
Well, and y'all had a great year last year. What brands drove those gains last year, and what's kind of off to a good start so far in the first quarter?
I'd say, demand for blonde never seems to lighten up for bikini blonde. But I would say mixed packs, wouldn't you say, Scott? The variety pack for beer and the mixed pack for seltzer seem to be, again, even with our, robotic line that has had its own challenges, given that it's new technology, I guess, in some ways, that those challenges we're working through those now. But I remember Scott throwing out some ungodly number of mixed packs that we had to make, and that doesn't seem to be lightening up at all.
Yeah. Of course, mixed packs being every operator's biggest nightmare, right? And it's awesome. I love that people are looking for the variety and the trial, but it's the least efficient package anyone makes. And you see these monster, orders come through, and they immediately, give you heartburn. So, but to answer your question, last year, interestingly enough, the things that really drove us were the flagships: Bikini Blonde, Pog Hard Seltzer. Bikini Blonde was up around 25% last year. Pog Hard Seltzer was up 35% last year. And I think, as we're in this, post-COVID environment, I think, and there's lots of opining on the forces behind these things, but we are really seeing this retreat to flagships and people, landing on the things that they know and love and becoming repeat purchases for them. And certainly that was no different for us.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is driving? I mean, because we've covered this a lot this year, variety packs. People are betting on variety packs and hopefully they're getting the pull too. Is this more of like a retailer solution is why they're so popular? Or is it because, consumers are wanting to kind of dabble and try everything, or is it both?
I feel like there's still a lot from the retailer perspective, especially the on-prem, where, they were used to having, say in one case, a restaurant down here close to home is, I think 36 faucets, and they've trimmed that back tremendously, not only because they couldn't get the variety of beer for so long, still can't in some cases, but also just the labor market is so tight and constantly revolving that training on the amount of products is difficult. A lot of this is just assumption, not empirically backed, if you will, but we see it in our own restaurants. So it's like, when you have a revolving door of employees and you have a shortage of supply, you have high costs too, right? Beer costs more than it did, a year ago in general. I know we've seen, several GPIs come through, different wholesalers. So now carrying that amount of inventory for a keg on each line is a massive amount of hit to cash flow. So, all of those forces, coming together, diverging into, the retailer deciding they're going to have less selection, which just means, hey, the customer gets less selection. So, it feels like that's what's driving it. And what the ones that are winning are the brands that they can rely on, not only in consistency of supply, service, support, et cetera, but also, quality brands, quality beers that people are asking for by name and that have that recognition. So that generally is going to be flagships.
Yeah. And I'm sure, like most things, every situation you can think of is exacerbated here in Hawaii. So when we think of things like variety packs, and something you touched on earlier, right? Like the interest in Hawaii right now and the Hawaiification you almost use and everyone coming to visit. Well, if you're on your dream trip of a lifetime to Hawaii, you're like, well, I want to try everything, right? I spent a week on YouTube looking at all the top 10 things to do on Maui. I got to do them all, and that means I'm buying my beer at the grocery store for the condo. I've got to buy them all, right? And that's where a variety pack, I think, has a lot of interest and probably creates a little bit of extra push, on the demand side for the variety packs. But if we can figure out why they like them so much, and if we can convince people to not like them as much, I'd really appreciate it. Make my life a lot easier.
Stop.
That's price. Yeah. That's price differential. Yeah, it's funny. The most expensive and difficult package to make is the one that people expect to cost the least.
Of course. Oh, yeah. Of course. Well, I was going to say, if somebody can figure out how to automate the variety package better, then that would be just, I wish I could, because then I could, leave this company. No, just kidding. I love that.
I heard that, Jen.
Here he is. He's the star. Harry decided to join us, guys.
Y'all, can we start over? Just kidding.
Yeah,
y'all go ahead.
Tell us about your Fox News interviews.
Oh my God. I did it without pants on. I think you should know that.
And then he sent us a picture.
Yeah. Then they started asking me like, why Disney and these other companies? And I'm like, whoa. I'm here to talk about beer. You guys carry on. So anyway, I don't want to interrupt. I'm just listening.
We're talking about variety packs, but I wanted to ask too about the spirits. Obviously, everybody's super into beer producers making spirits, and you guys have a great line of spirits. So when are you going to send it over to the mainland? And are you going to put it through your regular Maui distributors, or are you going to go with would you go with some of the wine and spirits wholesalers? Because that's kind of a hot topic.
Yeah. Real quick, back on the mix pack situation, we do have a robotic mix pack line that is, like I said, going through some of its own challenges. Looking back now, you realize that, we are continually pushing the envelope of, cutting edge technology, efficiency, investment in everything from, battery powered brewery all the way through to, things like the robotics. And this is a response to COVID and labor and such. And the extreme demand for our variety packs, but they're not readily used. So even the manufacturers of these robotic lines don't have it perfect. And we've found many solutions, like even as simple as, duct taping 4 paintbrushes to the sides of the conveyor to hold back the tray, things like that have now been machined into a part that actually does the same thing. We're working through these challenges, but we expect to have them resolved soon. But that will increase our throughput tremendously with a massive decrease in labor. So we are finding solutions; they're just not fully developed yet.
I think that plays right into the spirits question too. To answer maybe the most, the question that you have the most interest in out of that, Jen, when will you see the spirits available to you?
When will I see them?
That's if we're blaming anyone, it's going to be me on that, right? Because I need to figure out how to make, all these mix packs, book contain. I need to get the rest of our house in order. So that we can then, start expanding the footprint of spirits. It's kind of like this, domino effect that's happening, and that, a butterfly flaps its wings in Africa, and then all of a sudden I can't get any containers in Hawaii. That's backing up my entire production chain, and I can't get you any spirits, Jen. So blame the butterflies in Africa. I
am not above slaughtering them. So.
Coming
off. We're gonna have to cut that in post, Jen. Jeez.
Slaughter the butterflies.
God, anyway, you should have been on Fox News.
That would have been ugly.
That'd be fun though. And part of our entire Beyond Beer portfolio, if you will, it kind of speaks to, when a company like ours has, started to focus on more than just beer back, even 5 years ago, starting to morph, it was important to us to do it right. And now we're in a situation where we're that much bigger. We have that much more volume to deal with and all these external forces. So you kind of have to pick and choose where you actually focus nowadays. And we keep the spirits going in Hawaii. That's where they've always been. It's kind of on, I hate to use the term autopilot on it, but it is on its own path. And to level up to the next stage is going to be a heavy lift. And while the team's occupied with so many other areas, it's hard to shift that focus when, if our beer engine had, stalled out like many breweries have across the country, that might be different. But, we are blessed to continue to have a brand that is in high demand for a number of reasons. And, that is taking our primary focus right now, both on the beer and the seltzer side. And then today I just noticed we woke up to the awards from the US Open for whiskey and such. And we got a silver medal for our Kupu Spirits whiskey. Nice. And a gold medal for our barrel aged gin. So, that was pretty cool to see that news as well. So, we're making some great liquid on all fronts. And as far as distribution goes, we didn't cover that. Beer is sold very different than spirits are. I'd say we, again, going to the right partner as opposed to just the current partner. For example, some of our beer wholesalers have licenses to do spirits, but they aren't set up to really do them right. And even as simple as when you're first launching spirits, there's a lot of times retailer orders broken cases. So they order a bottle or 2 bottles of this, 2 bottles of that to make up a case. Most beer wholesalers aren't set up with a line that they can actually break open cases and repack. So that's a whole other
I
whole other
don't think
spectrum to spirits wholesaling. Go ahead, Harry.
their route accounting systems can't even do that. I mean, I think they can, add the product, but selling by the case is such a great invention. But when you have to sell and break it up, it makes the complexity is exponentially greater, and I think that's lost on a lot of people. But
Yeah,
I'm just making non
some are
sequiturs.
investing in it, but they're behind, right? They're not there. They're not going to be the RNDC Southerns Youngs type spirits movers and out the gate. So that's going to take some time, investment. I mean, you think about guys slinging boxes of beer is a lot different when you pull out a bottle and drop that $40 bottle of whiskey versus the dollar can of beer, right? Big difference for a wholesaler to have that kind of loss. So.
And the folks over at Kupu, your distillers, is their focus still on full strength, or are they starting to think more about some lower proof canned cocktails, things like that?
Yeah, we actually launched with cocktails. We didn't do bottled spirits for pretty much the first year of Kupu, and largely just because we saw the demand for RTDs and breaking into the bottled spirits market. Also, not having a wholesaler that was set up to do the broken cases and such was quite a challenge. So, we went to launch bottled spirits. I think it was February 2020. So that fell flat on its face because we had about a month of having product at the wholesaler before COVID shut the world down. So that was, really interesting. But the RTDs had done well, but we're seeing here in Hawaii, with the high tax rates here, we're $5.98 a gallon for spirits. So that translates to almost $14 a case in tax for even RTDs. So that is cost prohibitive. So you're seeing 4-packs at, regularly at, $20, $21 on the shelf. So that makes it really challenging to grow those. We are working on revamping the RTD portfolio to be more Maui specific or Hawaii specific. Right now we do a whiskey ginger and a gin and tonic. Both are fantastic, but don't really exude the Hawaii, what people expect from Hawaii. They're expecting Mai Tais, which we're not going to do, but something that's more celebratory of our geography, we'll say.
I had one more on hard seltzer since it's popped up a couple times. Obviously the segment is in decline, but y'all saw good growth with it last year. So I'm just wondering, is that still, do y'all still put as much focus as y'all ever have, or maybe even stronger focus knowing that you can grow when it's down?
Yeah, don't tell anyone in Hawaii it's down because they will not believe you. And I wonder if, and certainly you all study this a lot more closely than I do, but I wonder if, this general sense of that segment contracting is, just the natural maturity of the segment and finding who the winners and the losers are, right? We had so many entrants into the category that were just making terrible product. So if we just remove all of that out of the sales, then we're going to expect some contraction, but it's healthy contraction, I would say. And I would, put our seltzer against anyone's in the world, hands down. I mean, the quality of our seltzer cannot be matched. So I think that bodes well for what we can do. I think it's a product, it's a category that's here to stay. Even now that I'm in my I guess I'll say mid 40s. I find myself reaching for a seltzer more than I ever thought I would have. I think that we're going to find more and more, categories or demographics of people reaching for that category that are outside of, what we originally thought, right? That it was just, college millennials, chugging this stuff through funnels. That's not the case at all.
It sure is profitable though when they do drink it through funnels.
Yes,
boards.
True. As long as they're not buying mixed packs. Our wholesaler here, our partner here, is now Island Distributing. We were talking with them a week or two ago, and I think they were talking about like a 30,000 case standing order for mixed pack, right? Because we're just that far behind. Like we're not that 35% growth on Pog Seltzer is kind of restrained by the fact that we couldn't supply 50% growth, right? So that's what's kind of crazy. So I mean, we have wholesalers across the country who are like, yeah, we're not really gonna bring the seltzer on, or where we want to launch it. Like, we're seeing seltzer everywhere fall flat or die, and to the point of a lot of brands deciding they're going to cancel their seltzer. It's like, yes, we get that, but that's not our brand. Here are the numbers, So it is, and most people can't believe it, but it's definitely a different. I had a friend yesterday tell me, he's like, hey, I gotta be honest, I don't really care for your seltzer. He's like, it's just not a lot to it. It's just like flavored water. It's like, that was the goal, right?
Right.
You talk about some of these other seltzers that are back sweetened, too heavy and fake flavor. They're not what we were going for. We wanted to do seltzer our way, and I think we were really successful in it. So my comment to him was, well, thank you. That's what we wanted. You might not be our target audience on that, but that's okay. I think the differentiation is what led us to growth.
Garrett, doesn't it kind of remind you of, not the product itself, but it kind of reminds me of craft beer, like in 1998, when everybody and their plumber was getting into it. And then we ended up having a lot of bad product out there, what Jim Cook called science experiments. Mm-hmm. and it hit the whole category. And I think kind of seltzer is going through that. I think we've hit as a category, I think seltzer's hit its bottom just recently, probably just now. I think this summer will tell the tale whether the category is back to overall growth or not. Again, just making speeches over here. Sorry, I'll put myself back on you.
No, we, like, to Scott's point, I have had some pretty bad seltzers. Just like, the fermentation on sugar is not easy, and whatever the basis some of these guys were using, it was just, I had some really bad seltzer, and I could, to be honest, like, if I had them as a consumer, I would probably never drink seltzer again. And that is exactly why we've always pushed quality importance in beers. Like, if the beer's bad, you're turning people off of craft in general, right? So you got to make sure you're making great beer. And I think that is, I would say, a leading cause of so many failures on the seltzer side, because the ones that are good are growing.
Yeah. I made vodka out of donuts one time with some friends.
Is that even possible?
It is. It's a sugar, just like anything else. And it's got a little starch in it too, but it was awful. I think we probably left the methanol in there too. So it was probably poison. Yeah, it was.
So we shipped it to a Mexican resort, and the rest is history. Anyway, one more for me. You guys have been talking about segment contraction, and that's very timely. But sometimes, good brands get squeezed too. They're not well capitalized enough, logistics, whatever. And we chatted last year. You guys have been getting a lot of calls because they knew you were acquisitive. So curious, are you still getting calls? Are you still looking at things?
We're not really looking. Things get pitched to us all the time. I think there's, on any given moment, a few people that are reaching out. But yeah, to us, it's kind of more of a data point on craft segment as a whole, that there are so many that are, experiencing challenging times, and I think that's, for me, I almost feel that, there'd have to be just an amazing opportunity. Otherwise, like, it's almost just like, all right, hold on and go through the storm and, clean up post-storm. I think anything else, buying at a premium right now for distressed brands, it's just not. Those two things shouldn't line up. We would only be, I would say, a very, I hate to use the term predatory. It was opportunistic acquirer. And that also too is, even if we had a great opportunity, the capital outlay, the bandwidth, I have been put on a strict no projects like guidance from my team that I'm not allowed to even propose propose a big project right now. So they're building up in my notes, but that's about it. I think one of the bigger projects I'm actually working on now is expansion of tap rooms, and looking at growing the tap room presence in Japan more than anywhere else, largely because that would have to be a licensed model where we're not directly operating them, but we're overseeing. And that's the extent of my ability to do new projects. So bandwidth is driving all of that.
But
right,
not in the US. You guys aren't looking to put a bunch of tap rooms in the US.
Well, I would say our restaurant group arm is very active on expansion here in Hawaii. So more Maui Brewing locations are certainly in the works. But we are partners in that venture. Garrett and I are members of the board of that organization. We're involved, but we do not directly operate them. So, but to Garrett's point, right, is 2022 was definitely a year of projects, and I can count at least 6 projects that for a brewery or an organization of our size to take on any one of these projects would have been a major project for that organization. And we're doing all 6 of them at the same time. So, seeing those to fruition, putting them to bed, then using 2023 as a year to just, get really good at what we do, right? Let's focus on optimization, on operational excellence, and then build a nice steady platform so that the next project can succeed. And of course, Garrett says he's not allowed to do projects, but of course, if something, great opportunity came along, we would find a way to make it work, of course. I would say a lot of the opportunities that at least come to me in terms of people like, hey, I'd like to sell, tend to fall more in what I would call like the hobby business side of the industry. And that doesn't really fit our model, right? Like if you look at the kind of brewery that Modern Times is, and I think there was a lot of hobby elements to the way Modern Times was run, but it still has the overall infrastructure and footprint of a real business. That's what really fits what we do, right? Like we don't need a small 3,000 barrel brewery in Georgia, right? That doesn't fit what we do. So, a lot of those kind of opportunities are constantly funneling through our way, and we just have to politely decline. But where there is an opportunity that really allows us to, expand upon our footprint in a significant way, certainly we would take a look at that.
So Scott, are you like Don Corleone? And people come and you kiss the ring and say, "You come here in my house and disrespect me." I mean, we miss you in San Antonio, Scott. I'm sure you're, it sounds like you're pretty happy wherever that is in Hawaii. But,
wherever that is.
We make our rounds and people get married or have babies. We drop off.
I know, it's disgusting. It's gross.
And that's true too. It shows we see value, as we grow, having those, essentially the larger, central production, really looking at how you can drive efficiency is, different than I think a lot of brewers used a long time ago, where it was just, we're going to have, a brewery here, a brewery there. They're all over the place. And it's like that fragmented approach works when you have unlimited access to labor and, cheap ingredients, but those days are long gone. So, trying to drive efficiency in under one roof is, an ideal scenario. Even with our remodel of our Kahana spot, our original location, we bought the building next door. And so we're, we just finished demo and we're going to be, remodeling or rebuilding a new place there. Everyone's asking, are you going to reinstall the old 7-barrel system, from the original location? And, that doesn't make sense for us to do, brewing on premise. It would break up the efficiencies we have in Kihei, and so it doesn't necessarily make sense to make that investment. I do plan on keeping that system, but probably putting it in our museum one day, not to turn on a system and actually brew. So.
Garrett, when you started this thing, did you have any idea that we'd be sitting here in 2023 when, quite honestly, most or many craft brewers are struggling? Did you imagine that this would be this level of success, or did you always, have it in your mind? You're probably one of these grind guys that just knew that you were going to be successful.
Yeah, I kind of had to be, right. I've that question has come up many times over the years, even from my ex-wife and former partner. Yeah, I mean, I had to envision some level of success. Otherwise, what were we driving towards, right? So I think it certainly exceeded my expectations and goals, and I'm very proud of that. But, there was no question in my mind that, we'd be sitting in a seat something like this at this point. It's been nearly 20 years of my life invested in this. I mean, 18 years was January. So I was 26, and I always say, like any 26-year-old man, I was, I couldn't make any mistakes. I could do anything and completely infallible. And that, I think, yeah, right. That type of mentality is kind of what's necessary to get to where we are, at least in the beginning, right? And I've become much less of a cowboy these days than I used to be. So we've been able to take these bigger risks today because of how strong a foundation we built years ago. So yeah, it's kind of does, sometimes when you sit back and, look at things, kind of blows your mind a little bit, like.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's how I felt when I was on Fox News in my underwear earlier. I'm like, I've really hit the big time.
Yeah.
Harry, it's live. So God, you should have been like,
it just stood up and showed everybody, I'm wearing my tidy whities today.
What are they going to do? Cut your feed? Like,
I can't wait to see that interview.
It was disastrous.
No, it wasn't. You were great.
Oh,
I mean,
well,
if I may say so myself.
Thank you.
Yeah,
well,
that's awesome.
Well, sorry I was late, but Jen, you're going to take us home because I feel like I missed it. But don't worry, I'll watch it in the editing booth.
Oh, he should.
And I'll decide what makes the cut.
It's going to be 3 minutes, all of Harry talking. No, Thanks, guys. No, that was great. Always love to check in with y'all. You're dynamic and always doing lots of things. 6 giant projects. So
yeah. Well, fortunately, those are coming to a head now. It's a lot of them. I mean, some would have been done earlier, but we, spent a lot of time aligning, both Modern Times and Maui Brewing. I mean, even from ERP to centrifuges, we're now, relatively aligned. So, we're running all alpha brew 250s, 3 of them, so we can have, some overlap of spare parts. You've got, we shifted over to crafted ERP. For our solution for Maui Brewing, and we adopted that into the Modern Times platform as well. So, there's, I think, a lot of synergies. And so instead of, so the team's relearning a lot of things all at the same time, and that led to some further delays. But I think, we'll be capitalizing on those efficiencies, very quickly here. So
cool. Awesome.
Yeah. Well, great seeing y'all.
Great seeing
Thank
you
y'all very much.
Cheers.
Thanks for being on.
Where all your dreams come true. Bye.
Yes. Aloha.
Take care.
Yeah.